Good afternoon and welcome to today's webinar, Sustainable Transportation. I'm Matt Reese, GreenGov Deputy Director. This webinar is co-hosted and supported through our partnership with Penn State Sustainability. The GreenGov Council was established as the Commonwealth Agency's Lead by Example program, promoting energy conservation and sustainable governance. Our charter sets forth performance goals for the Commonwealth, ultimately steering the reduction of greenhouse gas emissions within our portfolio. Additional agency goals focus on fleet electrification, high performance buildings, annual energy reductions, and the use of renewable electricity. Visit the GreenGov website to see how agencies are meeting these performance goals. You'll find a host of information, including agency certification checklists, informative webinar recordings, such as this one today, and portfolio tools that may assist you in developing and achieving your own performance goals. Now we are pleased to introduce our friend, colleague, and partner at the Penn State Sustainability Institute, Peter Boger, PhD. Peter is the Assistant Director for Community Engagement at the Penn State University Sustainability Institute and is responsible for developing strategic programming and partnerships, such as this one with the GreenGov Council, that help Penn State leverage its resources to promote sustainability throughout the Commonwealth of Pennsylvania. Peter?
Thank you so much, Matt, and thank you everybody for joining us this afternoon. Delighted to see so many people out for what we know is going to be a great webinar with the Pennsylvania Turnpike Commission. And just wanted to say a few quick words. As Matt mentioned, we're at Penn State Sustainability, which is the sustainability office for the entire Penn State system. And our job is really to help think about how is Penn State serving the Commonwealth of Pennsylvania in our land grant mission. We're in what we would call Sustainability 3.0 at Penn State. With three key goals, one of which is to educate everybody, our students, our faculty, but also all of our communities, our alumni, in becoming more sustainability literate. How do we make Penn State's operations as sustainable as possible and get to a carbon zero emissions pathway by 2035? And in so doing, how do we serve as an example for the Commonwealth, for state agencies, for independent businesses, and everybody across the Commonwealth about how we can all be more sustainable in our operations. And then finally, our last goal is to serve the Commonwealth of Pennsylvania, all of the communities, all of the state agencies, everybody who is a citizen in the Commonwealth, and help you on your sustainable journeys. And webinar series like this one, which we do with the GreenGov Council, are a big part of that in helping people think about how you can apply what you learned here today, wherever you are in your journey and whatever it is you do. Sustainability is not something that any one office can own, as Matt and Mark can attest to, as two people serving the entire Commonwealth state government. And we are a small office of 12 serving the entire 100,000 people in the Penn State system. Instead, we are connectors, we are catalyzers, and we're here to help you on your sustainable journey because it's something that we all own. So with that, I look forward to seeing about how we can all learn from today's speakers and think about how we apply it to our journey. I'll turn it back over to Matt.
Thanks so much, Peter. And again, we certainly appreciate the relationship and the success that we've had in the past. And, webinars like this, I think we have 28 that are hosted on the GreenGov website from past series. So certainly take a look at those. And next, I'd like to introduce our Pennsylvania Turnpike presenters today, Kelly Roberts, Keith Jack, and Catherine Hartzell. Kelly serves as the Chief Strategy and Communications Officer at the Turnpike Commission, providing strategic direction and communications leadership. She previously held the position of Director of Policy and External Affairs, providing leadership on initiatives of strategic importance such as the conversion to all-electric tolling, the Commission's long-range planning efforts known as Reimagining the Turnpike, as well as projects to rebuild the Commission's customer service technologies and continued efforts to build and maintain relationships in local communities. Keith Jack is the Director of Facilities Operations at the Turnpike Commission, overseeing the Facilities Department's daily operations. He also co-chairs the Turnpike Sustainability Committee, which leads the agency's sustainability strategy. Under his leadership, the Turnpike was the first agency to achieve a perfect score on Pennsylvania's GreenGov Council. In 2014, Jack was named Engineer of the Year by the Facility Managers Association. Catherine Hartzell directs the Technology and Innovation Management team within the Turnpike's Information Technology Department. The Technology and Innovation Management team manages and coordinates various capabilities within the Information Technology Department. Services include business and vendor relationship management, portfolio, program, and project management, technology, policy and planning, capital and operating budget management and planning, procurement and contract management, technology innovation, enterprise architecture. In addition, Catherine co-chairs the enterprise planning team, sustainability committee, and business operations and automation team. All right, take it away, Turnpike team. We certainly appreciate your presentations today.
Great, thank you. So good afternoon, everyone. Again, my name is Kelly. I'm here to give you a quick primer on the Turnpike itself, who we are, what our identity is. The reason I'm doing so is because we need a foundation like this to be able to build the significant programs that Catherine and Keith are leading across our organization. So I think it's helpful to understand the environment in which these programs are finding success. I'm sure many of you are familiar with our roadway and you think of us as just that, as a roadway. But in reality, what our strip of concrete that runs through the Commonwealth does is support the economy, whether that be of the Commonwealth or of the Northeast. So we really play a significant role in driving the economy here in the state. We generate and collect $1.6 billion annually. So we are a significant transactor in the Commonwealth. And we also, as you can see at the bottom of the slide, maintain and keep up and build many different facilities across the Commonwealth. So our footprint is wide and vast. We have a great impact, as well as the fact that in order to run and keep these facilities active, we also employ more than 1,000 people across the Commonwealth. Catherine, if you want to go to the next slide. So we see ourselves as playing a significant role in strengthening the communities we run through. We don't want to just run through, bring construction and leave. That's a reality of our business, but it is not what we want to be the legacy of our business. So as I mentioned, we employ more than 1,000 Commonwealth residents throughout the entire state. We move more than 500,000 people a day through our system. And that's people going to work, it's people going on vacation, but it's also a significant amount of goods and services that support our communities and support the nation as it runs up the Eastern Seaboard. We invest into the Commonwealth more than $600 million a year through our capital plan, where we are maintaining and building facilities on a regular basis. We maintain a 10-year capital plan, and $600 million is about what we average investing back into the Commonwealth. And finally, we are building, as I've mentioned a time or two, we are still building infrastructure. Our partners at PennDOT are primarily in the role currently of maintaining what they have. We at the Turnpike have the opportunity to not only maintain and operate our existing facilities, but we've been charged by the legislature to continue building in certain parts of the state. And so we continue to invest in large-scale projects that bring, yet again, more economic activity and more investment into the Commonwealth. Next slide, Catherine. But while we do see ourselves as playing a significant role, bigger than what others may think we do, we also remain committed to our core objectives, which is to make sure that we are promoting safety and great customer service along our roadway. We're mostly known for being a convenient and reliable thoroughfare for our customers, but the reality is we're only able to be that reliable and consistent thoroughfare because we put such a premium on safety. We have low crash rates when it comes to our peers. We focus significantly on work zone safety to keep our employees and our customers safe. And we also have had great success in reducing our clearance rates for incidents, which is critical because that's where most of the unsafe incidents happen, actually are in the backlog of a bigger incident. So we put a great premium on our ability to clear incidents and keep traffic moving. Next slide, Catherine. And so while we do that, and we, as I mentioned, remain committed to our core values, we have expanded, and we do recognize that we have neighbors across the Commonwealth that we do have a responsibility to. Some of the ways that we demonstrate that are our contracts with local EMS and towing services in the communities that we run through. We compensate them for their attention to our system to make sure our customers get great service, but at the same time, we aren't stretching local resources too thin, and we're able to compensate them for their ability to work on our system. As I mentioned, we do invest significantly into the overall health of the Commonwealth through our projects. And finally, a large innovation that we have coming our way is the evolution to open road tolling, where we are moving from an interchange system to a system where you're tolled over the road, meaning as you go high speed. What this means is that we're able to, in the future, create more access points to our system, which is best for our communities. It's great for our neighbors, and great for the economic development of the Commonwealth itself. Next slide, Catherine. And finally, we also, as we have a great responsibility to our neighbors, we do understand that as a significant transportation provider, we also have a responsibility to the world around us. Transportation is a great thing. Our ability to move people quickly and efficiently is our charge. However, with that sometimes comes those who do it for nefarious purposes. So we are very committed as an organization to being a part of campaigns that increase awareness and education around human trafficking. It is not something that happens somewhere else. It is something that happens here in Pennsylvania, happens along the East Coast. And unfortunately, we know that it's facilitated by our system and other transportation systems like us. So we're very dedicated to that, making it an impact in that area. As we're here to talk to you about today, sustainability is a critical objective of ours. We recognize that transportation and the vehicles that we promote the use of does have a negative effect on the environment around us. We take that very seriously in how we mitigate and evolve how we're supporting this industry to make sure that we're moving into a more sustainable and restorative nature in the future, which you'll hear lots about today. And then finally, as a part of that sustainable objective, we also recognize that diversity, equity, inclusion are critical pieces of how we do impact the world around us. Not only internally at the Turnpike, where we're working every day to make sure that we are promoting diverse viewpoints and including diverse populations into our own workforce, but we're also very dedicated to initiatives that look at our younger Pennsylvanians and how do we make sure that transportation is really a industry that they all feel like could be their future and would be a future that would be welcoming for them as an individual and support their future growth. So we're trying to build that pipeline to make sure that we can be successful as a diverse organization within a diverse industry. Okay. And finally, we have reputation here in our state, obviously in the Commonwealth, but when it comes to our industry, we are a significant leader. And we're a leader because of the various things I mentioned to you, our innovation, our focus on making sure that we're always doing what we do better. And we're never happy with just who we are as a transportation provider. But as I mentioned, we want to do right by our country, we want to do right by our world, do right by our state. So we take on a lot more than necessarily is our charge as the Turnpike, but does work to make us a productive part of our societies. As I mentioned, we're still building. We're building new assets. We're also building out our system, which really supports the ability for us to move people from point A to point B in a very safe and efficient manner. Total reconstruction is not just about capacity. It's also about increasing the safety of our system with wider shoulders and wider medians. As a part of our move to open road tolling, while we're moving that need to collect data to the roadway, that means we need more ability to collect data, which means fiber. So we are installing a fiber optic network across our entire system, which runs through the southern part of the Commonwealth and up the Northeast extension, as well as some extensions we have in the western part of the state. And we are overbuilding that network. So we're making sure we have space to have additional capacity to be able to serve potentially underserved communities with fiber and with connectivity, which we know is an issue in some of our areas, and to be able to potentially commercialize that in areas where it makes sense. So we're continuing to look at the viability of our agency and diversify how we sustain ourselves. And finally, our move to open road tolling, one of the most significant changes to our system in our history, is moving to that we're less dependent on the trips and we're able to open our system, make it more accessible, and make it easier to navigate in the future as gantries become how we collect data. We take single point tolls instead of worrying about the trip. So that's sort of the universe that we all ascribe to. It's the universe that we see as the Pennsylvania Turnpike and our impact. It goes beyond what some might think. And I think that dedication to the world around us is part of what paves the foundation and commitment to the projects that you'll hear from Keith and Catherine today. So with that, I'll pass it on to Catherine.
Thanks, Kelly. So we just wanted to briefly talk a little bit about our strategic plan, mission, vision, values, and commitments. As you can see here, this includes things that Kelly talked about, with us being a leader, not just in the transportation space, but really wanting to be a leader in everything that we do. Also in our commitments, looking at managing our assets in a restorative way, and under responsibility matters. You see specifically, we call out some of those components that Kelly talked about. including diversity and sustainability. And this is something that's front and center to us in everything that we do. Our values particularly are part of the conversation whenever we are taking on initiatives as well. But that being said, when we take a look back at the Turnpike Commission, we have a commitment of more than 30 years to sustainability, even before we necessarily called it that. So going back to 1989, one of our engineers actually invented the snaps, which is the sonic nap alert pattern, or the rumble strips on the side of the road, which helped to increase safety, of course, but also shows some of that history of innovation. You know, if we move forward to 91, we formed our Turnpike Employee Association. In 2011, our diversity office. And moving ahead, you know, just last year, as Matt mentioned, we received our second 100% ranking from the GreenGov Council. Our sustainability program was recognized with an international award from IBTTA. And also our Women's Network, as Kelly had mentioned, has been recognized also for the work that they've done for our Coffee Connections that connects our employees internally, but also for the Human Trafficking Awareness Campaign. So from there, what we wanted to do was also take a look not only at our mission, but taking a look at the United Nations 17 Sustainable Development Goals, which have been adopted by the GreenGov Council, and really assess whether the work that we're doing also aligns with these goals, because that is the mission of our committee. And if you take a look at this next graphic, after doing an assessment of just a sampling of initiatives that we have going on, you can see that we are able to demonstrate that we are aligning with all 17 of those goals. And what we want to do going forward is make sure that when we undertake projects, that we're thinking about how they support our mission towards sustainability and how they align with these goals. And we're finding that we typically can map our initiatives to multiple of those goals as well. So we do want to take a few minutes and share a video with you. Sorry for the fun preview image, but we just wanted to share with you how seriously we do take sustainability here at the Turnpike.
Sustainability is for everyone,
even me.
especially for you.
I love the fact that my colleagues here at the Turnpike love to leave footprints in the industry. Sustainability is a key part of that.
Yeah, I think the Turnpike is an absolute leader. If you look across the Commonwealth, the GreenGov, again, they do a kind of a checklist of all the different public agencies. Last 2 years, we've scored 100%.
Our conversations that we're having with other agencies, our communities, and our stakeholders, looking at how we can have that vision for 2040 to have that first sustainable transportation system.
Our Sustainability Committee was formed 3 years ago to bring employees together with an interest in the cause and also focused on people, profit, and planet.
Sustainability ties into one of our core values, responsibility matters. We use the 17 UN goals as a guideline for our projects, and we review our projects to see what goals we've hit and which ones we can incorporate the next time on that project. We have several different initiatives for plug-in chargers, but also inductive charging as well. We're looking on how to incorporate EVs into our daily work lives, not just in our fleet, but also for our customers and our employees. Next year, we're doing an inductive showcase here at the Central Administration Building, where we bring in vendors in to show us their inductive charging project.
I think about the Southern Beltway, 13 miles of roadway we just built out in southwestern Pennsylvania. We use long life concrete. For a number of years, we've always used recycled asphalt in our mixes. You look out the window here at our central office building, you see a pollinator garden. You go to the Silent Hill Service Plaza, we're building a trailhead for a bike path. It can be big, it can be small, but it's something we ask ourselves every day on every project. As we deliver those projects, what can we do to make it better for not only the Turnpike, but for everyone involved in this planet?
Absolutely everything we do, from the way in which we get to the office, and the way in which we do our projects on the roadway, and the way in which we treat our facilities, all things related to sustainability. And I'm really proud of the leadership of that committee. I love the fact that the Sustainability Committee doesn't just meet, but it acts.
The fiber project will bring 5G networks to underserved communities.
Our Turnpike Employee Association, every year at the holidays, has a Pick an Angel program where we support women and children from our local areas. A few years ago, our Women's Network started a giving garden that is completely run by employees. This year, the garden provided more than 1,000 pounds of produce that was donated to local food banks. Our Sustainability Committee also annually does a Making Sustainable Attainable campaign. We do this during Hunger Action Month. Our Women's Network created a campaign to help educate both our employees and our driving customers regarding human trafficking, the dangers, and also the signs.
Having that sustainability culture really rings true to that nature, that you want to leave something better than how you found it. It's about how I treat my employees, how we
Catherine, we lost sound.
How long ago did it go out?
20 seconds.
Okay, hang on.
On how to be more sustainable.
To me, is also tied to sustainability, where you're finding a better way, you're generating efficiencies, and you're doing things in a better way for people and how you deliver solutions.
Vision for the future is by 2040 will be a completely sustainable roadway. But as you can see in what this committee's done in the last couple of years, we're making strides, and this group's going to get there.
Sorry about that. Hopefully it came back there at the end at least. And we can certainly share the link out to the video as well if folks would like to try to catch what they missed. But again, just wanted to share that in terms of, highlighting just some of what we have going on, and we'll go into some more detail on some of those initiatives as well. As you saw in the video, we definitely take a look at people, planet, and profit, or the triple bottom line in everything that we do, whether it's internal or external facing. So we did a bit of an internal assessment to see how we were doing. I believe this is about 2 years old, but we knew that we needed to do a little bit more on the people side of things. So you'll see we'll highlight some of those initiatives as well that we have going on. So on the people side and our commitment to social responsibility, and you'll see that these are not just things that our committee is doing. These are things that are part of our organization, part of our culture, part of multiple teams that we have. But we just wanted to highlight a few of those here. Of course, participating in the annual statewide employees combined appeal that all of the state agencies participate in. Our committee itself has done our Making Sustainable Attainable campaign, as well as supporting events for Earth Week, as well as Hunger Action Month. The Women's Network with the Giving Garden, they actually are conducting their annual women's conference this week with an in-person event that they held yesterday, and supporting STEAM Day events with other agencies that they partner with. And then the Turnpike Employee Association, which, from blood drives to supporting different charitable endeavors at the holidays, school-aged children, all types of things that we have going on. And wanted to also take a look at how we sort of look at how the UN goals align with the initiative. So you saw in the video mention of our pollinator gardens. We actually have a total of 5 of those. These pictures are from our central administration building in Middletown, but we do have 5 total, with 5 more planned for this year. And as you can see, if we take a look really across, we're able to align this to 7 of those goals. Kelly mentioned open road tolling earlier. Obviously, we're doing the phased implementation of that initiative. But beyond just, seeing the new gantries and such on the roadway, there are a lot of benefits beyond just the customer expectations and the travel. We take a look at it, will increase mobility. It improves safety for our drivers who aren't slowing down to go through those toll booths and interchange locations. Also, with less idling traffic, it's good for the environment, right? We're reducing the carbon emissions that we're going to see through that as well. And it also provides us an opportunity to more readily add new access points onto the system. So this ticks all those boxes of people, planet, and profit as well, not just for us, but also for the community. Brad mentioned the Sidling Hill Trailhead project in the video as well. This is an initiative that was born out of one of our Reimagining the Turnpike teams called Team Destination. So when the Turnpike was formed in 1940, it was a destination. People drove on the Turnpike to drive on the Turnpike. That was the whole purpose of their trip. We're trying to look at how we can reinvent ourselves to get back to that as well. And this trailhead project at the Sidling Hill Service Plaza will provide a safe mechanism for folks traveling in either direction on the Turnpike to be able to park, access the trailhead, the abandoned tunnel, the bike paths. There's also going to be a dog park and other facilities built out here, supporting not only ourselves, but also this will support the local communities. And at this location, interestingly, that trailhead actually within 25 miles can access almost 700 miles of trails. In 2024, we have a number of priorities underway. We'll be conducting our Making Sustainable Attainable campaign again this year. We are looking to form a volunteer network that can provide more opportunities for our employees to volunteer in a variety of ways, which also helps with team building, amongst our employees as well. We're doing an Earth Day litter pickup event this year, as well as hosting our 3rd annual Earth Week, the week of April 22nd, bringing in outside speakers to talk about a number of topics. We volunteer 4 times a year at the Central Pennsylvania Food Bank. And then we also have partnerships, which I'll touch on a little bit more shortly. We have a number of projects underway. I don't think this is an exhaustive list, but we will be installing our 2nd microgrid, which we expect to go live at our Western Regional Office this fall. Also an additional microgrid for a training center. Looking at those also at our service plazas, I believe the EV charging stations that are being built out, I think that number may actually go a little bit higher this year than what we have on the slide. And also looking at putting solar in our right-of-ways as well. And finally, we want to also take a look at our business processes and how we can be more sustainable through our day-to-day activities. So we are looking at how we can be more sustainable in procurement activities, and that can take on understanding how those companies with which we do business, how did they support sustainability? Or what will they bring to a project that could be more sustainable and support these goals? Looking at more sustainable products as well. Also hosting meetings. So this year, one of the things that we're promoting is having more sustainable meetings. For instance, we're starting with, we don't put bottled water out at any meetings anymore. We have bottle fillers around the building. So we encourage everybody to bring their reusable cups, bottles, what have you. But that goes also to, perhaps everybody carries some silverware rather than using plasticware, right, at every single luncheon that we hold these days. And finally, we're working with our engineering department in design, especially to take a look at how we could potentially be more restorative in our construction projects. So whether it is looking at a roadway that we're building, and if there's an opportunity to leave a positive impact on wildlife or the environment. So that could be an overhead passageway over a roadway for wildlife. This could also be if we're taking trees down in order to put up a new facility, are we putting trees back in the ground? What are we doing to kind of leave things at least as good as they were right before that project? We have a number of groups that we work with internally that we partner with, particularly. Kelly touched a bit on diversity, equity, and inclusion, and we do have a council that supports those initiatives. We speak at internal events to other areas of the organization as well. We have our mileposts, which is our weekly newsletter, and we put information out through there. We partner with the Innovation Council, Turnpike Employee Association, our Reimagining the Turnpike effort, Women's Network, the engagement team, and other facets of the organization as well. We also have external partners. The GreenGov, of course, is one of those, but a variety of other organizations that we work with. You can see them here. I won't name all of them, but those range from international organizations to organizations across the country, as well as in our own backyard. We want to be working with those local partners as well. Process improvement is one of the ways that we look at supporting sustainability. Innovation is near and dear to my heart, but I also recognize that technology does not always fix everything. So one of the things that we do anytime we're looking to apply technology to a problem or to automate a paper form or something of that nature, we look at how we can fix the process as well. As a 80-plus-year-old organization, we have a lot of processes that have been around for a while. So we take a look at those processes, and especially for our technology projects thus far, we measure the before and the after. So you can see on the screen there are estimated savings just through 17 of our IT projects, including hard and soft savings. The dirt was mentioned in the video as well. It's just one of those examples. And finally, one of the initiatives that we're getting underway this year is a partnership with Keep Pennsylvania Beautiful, looking at a cigarette litter prevention program. Cigarette butts are one of the most prevalent pieces of litter, and they don't break down. So these grants allow us to put additional receptacles in strategic locations at our service plazas. And then Keep PA Beautiful actually has ways that when you collect those butts, they can turn those into other recycled products, including things like benches. So we're excited to get this underway this year as well. And with that, I am going to hand it over to Keith.
Thanks, Catherine. Sometimes to be sustainable, we have to think outside the box. And recently we had a construction project where we did a ABC bridge, or accelerated bridge construction. And during that project, we had to cut the power off that was going across the bridge in order to feed this service gate that we have next to it. That service was going to be out for 9 months, and we worked with the utility company and asked them, to relocate the power service. They were going to do that for the cost of $120,000. And we thought, hey, we could come up with a better way to do that. So I challenged our staff to say, what could we do to power this gate for this 9-month period? And the trailer on the right is what they came up with. It was a solar combination, battery storage, and a propane generator. That operated all the power needed to move that gate open and close during that construction project. That trailer cost us about $10,000. And we used that in lieu of putting a gas generator there instead. So we saved about $100,000 just by thinking outside the box on that project. Next slide, please. We're also looking at how can we construct our roadway a little more greener. So the picture on the right is an electric heavy duty loader that we're looking at purchasing, but we're going to use it for our own fleet. But we also think of how our contractors that work on our roadways could use this as well. As Catherine mentioned, we're looking at building multiple microgrids, and the picture on the left is a movable battery. So we're looking at ways, how can we store energy and move it to a construction site and use that to power EV equipment on a project. Next slide. So as we put these things together, we think of what our next generation highway looks like. We want to think of how it's going to end up in the future. And as we take this adoption of EVs, there's a lot of challenges with that. And how do we overcome those? Next slide. So we have a vision for what a sustainable roadway looks like in 2040. We have microgrids, the fiber that was mentioned, connected vehicles. We want to use our assets to our advantage. So we're looking at varied electric transmission lines, as well as inductive charging and wind. Wind has been challenging for us. We haven't found any projects that would be a good business case. One thing you don't see on here is hydrogen. As we work with our trucking companies, most of their hydrogen initiatives are going to be based at their depot, and they're really not looking to fuel up hydrogen along our corridor. That's something we keep our eye on, but nothing has come forward on that to date. Next slide. This slide is a snapshot of where our projects are now for the fiber. So there's multiple contracts going on right now. On the eastern side of the state, we do have those fiber lines lit up and are operational. This helps not only assist our tolling activities, but as Kelly said, it also helps us bring 5G to communities that don't have that now. We're not commercializing ourselves, but we do have the capability for others to commercialize it. We have that conduit in place for that. Next slide. The fiber will also help us with our wireless communication. So when we think of what 2040 is going to look like, and the thought of EVs being so much computerized, we want to warn our customers of accidents or incidences on the roadway as soon as possible. And this wireless communication capability is going to help us do that. This will have roadside equipment along our road connected to the fiber that will give us continuous communication, not only with our operators, but also with our customers. Next slide. So we're working with PennDOT and Westmoreland County on a project to have a demo track, and that track will have several advantages to it. It will not only help us learn about our communication parts, next slide, but it also help us with traffic incident management, work zone safety, and autonomous vehicles. We're also looking at what vehicles will be connected autonomously in the future. So if we're looking at a tractor trailer or a commercial truck being autonomous, how's that going to be powered? Next slide. So the future connection, this is kind of what I was touching on earlier. What does that operation look like, and what do we need to have in place for those vehicles to be connected? Next slide. When it comes to buried electric transmission lines, we cross many different utilities across the state. This is a representation of all the co-op electric companies that we touch. Next slide. And this is a depiction of all the utility companies. Now, they both have different sets of rules, so connecting to them is different, not just by each company, but each set of rules, whether it's a co-op or electric company. And that makes things challenging for us. Next slide. So we're currently working to add microgrids across our system. Now, these could be connected to the buried transmission lines in the future if it fits projects in the future, but it also has the advantage of us being self-resilient. So right now we have 135 generators across our system for backup power, and of course they're all diesel. So how do we have backup power in the future that's not reliant on fossil fuels? So we're looking at how do we store the energy and when our energy production times are. Next slide. This is a picture of our Greensburg maintenance shed. The building here, you can see 3.5 acres of solar in the background there. We didn't put any solar on the rooftop, but we're also looking at how we can adapt our fleet for EVs by producing our own power. There also is a 1 megawatt natural gas generator on here, but if you look at that alignment with the road, it gives us the point of contact to actually electrify the road, which I'll talk about later. Next slide. So we do have some EVs in our fleet now, and we're trying to build a solar canopy above our parking lot. As we were going through that, we did find some challenges with that, but part of that capital project was to get our EV chargers out for our employees in the parking lot. And then we're hoping to power that with solar power. We had to step back on this one a little bit. The central office needed some other work done, so we're going to put some solar on the roof when we replace the roof this year. Next slide. Now, Catherine did mention solar in our right-of-way, and we did a solar analysis across the state where our property lies, and we have 7,900 acres that is suitable for solar. And that value is about 120 megawatts of power that we could produce. So we're looking at where we can harvest that power and where we're going to put it. This section here shows that the electricity value would be $1.5 million. So we're looking at those, but we also look at the safety part and the view part. We don't want to just put solar to have solar there. We want to put it in a intentional and strategic manner. Next slide. As we evaluated the RAISE report, we identified 60 acres next to our service plazas in Somerset. At this site, we're going to do 2 different microgrids in parallel, also with a training center. These will power our future EV chargers at the service plazas. It's in conjunction with our EV charging vendor, which is Apple Green Electric. So as we put these in, those new EV chargers will be solely powered by them, but we're also going to use that to test different resources, different battery backups before we move them out to another site. But it'll also give us the time of day when our customer needs to travel and a lot of data that we don't have at this time. Next slide. So the last part I want to talk about is the inductive charging scenario. So when we talk about inductive charging, we're not talking about electrifying all the roadway. We're talking about electrifying strategic points in the roadway to keep vehicles charged as they move. We're not looking to power a vehicle that gets on the system from 20% up to 100% when they get off, but we're looking at it more as the capability of your battery levels at 60% when you get on our system, and we want you to have that 60% when you get off so you can still reach your destination without stopping as many times for a charge. Next slide. And this is kind of the layout of what that would look like. So you'd have chargers in the roadway, you'd have a communication box on the side, then of course a connection to the grid or a microgrid in our case. Next slide. So currently we have 68 chargers across the system. They're different levels. And one of the interesting things when we started looking at this, now we do have our contract in place to do 80 more plug-in chargers, but we started looking at this, next slide, and started putting that against our traffic numbers. And then we put that against EV adoption rate. So if an adoption rate of 25% on a holiday weekend, let's talk about Memorial Day or Labor Day, and we have 3.5 million customers on our road in that 3-day weekend, how many chargers do we actually need? We're still working on those calculations, but it doesn't look like we could put enough chargers in to keep everybody moving. Next slide. As mentioned earlier, we're doing an inductive showcase. So this is where we're going to meet those inductive charging manufacturers and learn their product and the best use case for them. Some chargers work better in asphalt, some are better in concrete, some lay on top of the asphalt and don't even penetrate the roadway at all. So we want to know how best to use their project and make sure we have the communication and safety protocols in place. Next slide. The second checkpoint for us to go to dynamic charging will be to have test spots at some of our tolling points where we can power up one charging point and verify the battery. We want to know where the battery levels get drained along our roadway system because the topography changes quite a bit as you move across the state. Next slide. We also have a project scheduled for 2030 where we're going to do 3 to 5 miles of charging. We're hoping to use multiple manufacturers in this project, also multiple classes of vehicles as well. So as we look at it, we want to have a shared infrastructure over multiple classes and not charging just one type of vehicle for one different purpose. Next slide. So some of the things that we talk about when we think of dynamic charging is emergency shutoff and safety things, but how can that deployment be combined with other capital plan activities? If we're planning on repaving a road, that would be the time that we would add inductive charging to that road. That would help lower the cost of that. We also worry about if we have an inductive charging lane and someone's low on power, would they slow down too much and cause an accident? So we're verifying that we can set speed limits to inductive charging by not going too slow or too fast. And we also came up with an inductive charging worksheet to help us figure out some of those calculations, which I'm going to talk about in a few minutes. Next slide. I showed you that the Google Map version of the Somerset Service Plaza. This is a rendering of that same facility. We want to do inductive charging for heavy duty freight vehicles and buses, but we also do our plug-in charging. And as we develop this, we want to look at the whole ecosystem of transportation and what happens to those EVs once they hit 10 years old. What happens to those batteries? Do they just go to the recycling center? Or next slide. Or can we stack those batteries in the cabinet and use them for energy storage before they go to the recycle center? We could get another 3 to 5 years out of a battery. It might not be good for driving, but it is still good for energy storage. Next slide. This is an illustration of wireless charging to get you a little better picture of how that would work. We'd have charging pads in the road or ground assemblies, and then under your vehicle, you'd have a charging plate that would receive that power. Now, there is a communication protocol and safety protocols that happen. It takes about a millisecond for that communication to happen, and then you'd be able to charge your vehicle. Next slide. So we do work with other vehicle manufacturers and stay in tune with SAE on where this progress is. So at the 11 kilowatt power level, SAE has come out with this regulation on how the coils are going to line up. So they're starting to work on the standards of how this system's actually going to work. Next slide. This is an actual picture from Israel. Israel and Tel Aviv, they have 14 buses running on this particular system right here. They never have to go back to the depot for charging. They have a very predictable route. They also lowered the battery size of the vehicle because they know how much energy it takes to get to the next bus stop. So with this system, this is an easier installation, but it also is a very predictable way to power those buses in Tel Aviv. Next slide. So as we're looking at how to deploy infrastructure, as I mentioned earlier, we want to align these things with our capital plan projects. So here's a rendering of the equipment being rolled off in the back of the truck, and then after this, a paving truck would come over, drop the asphalt, and roll it in. Next slide. So as we started working through the calculations, our customer service means quite a bit to us. So what is the advantage of getting inductive charging into our roadway? So we did a scenario with the Tesla car and taking the assumptions that we're using 11 kilowatts on a 3-mile section of road, which would total 51 miles of charging lane. And what would that mean to the battery of that vehicle? Well, that would mean 68 miles or a 25% charge for that vehicle. Next slide. It's not very impressive, but when you look at the truck model and they can put more receivers on there, they can increase their capacity 136 miles, which makes it a little more advantageous for heavy duty trucks. As we work through and develop these systems, we're actually looking at the next level of SAE standards going up to 22 kilowatts, which would actually double these production rates. Next slide. So we also looked at the reduced carbon emissions of how this battery capacity not going to increase that vehicle across our system. With that is the end of our presentation. And I guess we'll open it up for questions.
Oh, and thanks so much for the super informative, and it's nice to see all the action that the Turnpike is doing. And we're going to now stop the recording